I think Monkey Ball 2, to me, is just one of the most tightly designed games that I've ever played.
Absolutely no one would have expected them to go that hard on like a light gun side mode that has no connection to the main game.
It's so funny. Like I don't know why they added that, but they did, and I'm very happy that they did.
I have very intense memories of most of that 24 hours of video games was just Monkey Ball 2, playing the mini games over and over. Put half the budget towards Monkey Target.
What's your favorite game? Come on the show, let me pick your brain. We've all got favorite games. No takes too insane here on Your Fave Game.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Josh Busker, and welcome to another exciting episode of Your Fave Game, the online talk show where we chat with some of the most creative people from across the internet and ask them the question that keeps me up at night: what's your favorite game? Today we are joined by Mark's Rec Room, a YouTuber that specializes in Nintendo retrospectives and some good old-fashioned video game analysis. How you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a good day.
Good.
No real complaints on my end. So yeah, we are gonna just hop right into it. Before I ask what your favorite game is, was this a difficult question?
Oh yeah. This question always has like a variety of rotating answers. But I think I've settled really good on my case for this one being my favorite.
All right, yeah. So let's just get right into it. What have you picked out as your favorite game today?
I have picked out as my favorite game is Super Monkey Ball 2 for the Nintendo GameCube.
An absolute classic. I was mentioning this to you before we started recording, but literally saw the email where you said what game you wanted to talk about was, and I was like, that is based. I love it. I am so excited to go in depth talking about Monkey Ball 2. So I guess, just the first question is going to be like, what makes it your favorite? What makes it stand out above all the rest in your mind?
Oh man, it's hard to really nail down where to start, I feel like, but I think Monkey Ball 2 to me is just one of the most tightly designed like games that I've ever played. Like it is very inventive, it's very experimental. It kind of pushes a lot of boundaries of what it feels like a like physics-based marble rolling puzzle like the platformer isn't really applicable, I don't think, but like a physics-based marble rolling game could be. And on top of that, it's got some really great side multiplayer content too. It really kind of ticks all of the boxes for me, it feels like.
I was actually super curious coming in what the reason was going to be, whether it was focusing on that main gameplay element, the like Super Monkey Ball, what pops in your head when you think of Super Monkey Ball, or whether it was going to be the multiplayer modes and all of the mini games. Because I think you can make a really good case in either direction for those just being really ahead of their time and a super cool experience on the GameCube. So I'm glad that
Absolutely.
you that both of those aspects kind of stand out to you, and together make a package that is just incredible.
Yeah, to me, it's like the entirety of what Monkey Ball is just very like thoroughly thought out and well designed. And like I love that like the multiplayer sections of that game to me feel like they're more rich than you would think they would be. Like lots of times it felt like single player games from this era kind of happened to have like a multiplayer section that was like honestly more like in depth and detailed than it probably really needed to be. Like I think about like Star Fox 64 has like a really in depth like multiplayer mode. Like Donkey Kong 64, Banjo Kazooie or Banjo Tooie, like have like that
Hmm.
those multiplayer modes that are like really in depth. And Super Monkey Ball has that across like multiple mini games that I think are just like wonderful multiplayer experiences. Like Monkey Target, especially. Like obviously, it's the
Yep.
one that I think most people talk about, but it's one of my favorite like things to turn on when I'm playing games with friends. It's just such great like social. It's like such a great like social glue, you know?
Yeah, I 100% think if Sega just put out like on the eShop or something, here's just Monkey Target from either Monkey Ball 1 or Monkey Ball 2, either of them, like if they could just put that out for $20 and that would sell millions of copies
Oh
instantly.
yeah.
I think they could totally get away with that.
They totally could. I would love to see them flesh that out into like a big game. I think it has legs, honestly, or wings, I guess. But like
No,
I think that
that would be
idea.
incredible.
Yeah, I think that idea has so much potential.
And that's just like for Monkey Ball 2, that's like one out of 12 mini games, and just yeah, that on its own would like be a complete package. So it's crazy just how much they've packed in. Like obviously some of the mini games in Monkey Ball 2 like aren't quite as fleshed out. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
I ever quite got like the handle of like Monkey Boat or something like that, but like the racing, the targets, like just absolute pillars of like my childhood playing the GameCube and like having friends over and just yeah, you'd eat a bunch of pizza and you'd play a whole bunch of Monkey Target or like Monkey Fight.
Yeah.
And that was how you'd spend your afternoons.
Yeah, man, like Monkey Ball and like the party games in particular were like a big thing for like me and my family. Like at like big like family gatherings, we would all like gather around and play like Monkey Target and like Monkey Race and stuff. And it was like I have a lot of fond memories there. But like Monkey Race especially is very difficult because it feels like essentially like the gameplay from the main game, but like I don't know how to say this besides way more slippery and like harder
Mhm.
to control, but in a kind of fun way, almost like you're like I don't know how to describe this besides like you are sliding like a piece of soap around the sink like as fast as you can, like trying
It's like
to
whenever people mod like the Grand Theft Auto games, so all the cars like go 20 times as fast and it's
yeah.
just chaos. It feels like they did that to the monkey balls. Yeah.
It does. It does. Absolutely. Like it just cranks that speed up to like almost an uncontrollable degree, but in like a really fun way. But yeah, some of the
Mhm.
mini games definitely lack, or the party games, I guess, like lack some depth. Like I will say, Monkey Golf. Like personally, I love golf simulators. Like I love everybody's golf. I love like Mario Golf. But Monkey Golf 2 especially doesn't really do it for me.
Mhm.
But the hard hitters I think really hit hard. Like somehow they managed to make a really fun like kind of arcadey light gun mini game in Monkey Shot, like just randomly in
Yeah.
this like physics based marble rolling game. It's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, it's like absolutely no one would have expected them to go that hard on like a light gun side mode that has no
Right.
connection to the main game, but they did. So someone at Sega had a great time putting that together.
Yeah, I just love I love to like imagine like how much like fun they probably had making those side modes for a game that like it definitely did not necessarily fit with like the main story gameplay, but they just decided to run with like these clever ideas for mini games, and some of them turned out to be like fantastic multiplayer experiences. Like Monkey Target, there's just so much like mechanical depth and like replayability with Monkey Target that like something I really like about Monkey Target 2 is that there is like the mode in your if you're playing in single player, it can still be really fun because there's the mode where you can set it to have like multiple. I think it's like five or six like
Yeah, you
characters
got a
side
little
by side.
squadron of your monkeys flying.
Yeah, and that like makes the single player like run throughs of that mini game really fun. So even if for some reason friends can't come over, like Monkey Target is still really fun to me. And I mean, it also helps that a lot of those mini games are like compare like also have some fantastic like music along with them that like Monkey Ball really hit like this element of like jungle drum and bass that like really like just scratches an itch
Mhm.
for me. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the music just instantly iconic. I know whenever they did that like kind of remake bundle of the first two games,
Mhm.
it was DLC to have the original music and menus and everything.
Yeah,
And I felt kind of bad paying for that, but I absolutely had to just because it was like, no, this is the Monkey Ball music. This is what I
right.
need.
Yeah, like, oh, it felt wrong to pay for that, but, like,
Yeah.
playing, like, these iconic stages and, these these party games that I remember without that music that just to me feels so indicative of not only the time that that game was made, but also, like, I just feel like the feel that those mini games and even the game itself was really going for. which was like this
It
very kind of
keeps everything together, feeling cohesive.
yeah, it absolutely does. And like the new music in Banana Mania isn't particularly bad, but for me, it just
Mhm.
doesn't quite, it doesn't hit the same. And maybe some of that is, 20 years of nostalgia bias kicking in. But I do think that like the original soundtrack just has a feel to it that the new music doesn't quite replicate.
Yeah, it's really specifically like the early 2000s, that GameCube era feeling.
Yeah, 100%. And like the new character designs too, like, I like the new Monkey Ball like character direction and such, but there is something about those goofy looking character models that have like the strange like kind of hot dog fingers that like
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something about them that's endearing.
Another thing that just when we were bringing up the multiplayer here, it's so rare now to have a video game that has both a discrete single player mode and a discrete multiplayer mode.
Mhm.
Because I feel like nowadays, if you have a game that does both single player and multiplayer, it's usually like the multiplayer is just adding co-op into that single player experience, or like the single player experience is also built to support other players,
Mhm.
rather than having like, this is our single player mode that's like the story or the missions or like has all its challenges, and then here's something that's completely different or like at least spinned off a bit differently. And that used to feel a lot more common, I feel like, during like the GameCube generation. And now just it might just be because like budgets are way too big for video games, or you need to really focus in on a direction. But that like full package of like different things for single player and multiplayer, but still having them feel cohesive, it's like a lost art form in a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's like a lost art. You read my mind there. Like
Yeah.
there's something about like yeah, I do think that a lot of games now are probably it's probably a little too expensive. It's hard to justify, the time and resources to make like these really fleshed out side modes for like, mostly single player games or even multiplayer games but with like, a very different direction like how like Mario Party 5 had like this weird like mech building mode randomly.
Hmm.
Like that's the sort of thing you don't really get anymore. Largely probably because of scope and such. But man, I do miss it. I do miss like those really different, really out of the box like multiplayer modes in single player games where it felt like this was an idea that they felt had some legs, but wasn't maybe necessarily able to be spun into its own game. So it's like, hey, let's include this arena fighting mode into Donkey Kong 64, or let's include this target mode into Super Monkey Ball, you know?
Yeah. Oh, the biggest example that's popping into my head is like Banjo Tooie. They decided, oh, let's have a first person shooting mode, and it'll briefly pop up in single player. But then also, if you want to just play essentially Baron Bird GoldenEye, you can
Yeah.
also do that.
It's so funny. Like I don't know why they added that, but they did, and I'm very happy that they did. Like it's so
Mhm.
funny to me that like a game like Star Fox 64 has like a multiplayer fighting mode, and then there's like actual on foot like gameplay, something that's not in the base
Mhm.
game. Like
Yeah.
it's like y'all didn't have to do that, but I'm really glad that you did because it's really clever.
Really freaking clever, one might say. Ha ha ha. Sorry, I had to. Could you tell me, I guess, a bit like how did you get into Super Monkey Ball Tour? What was your first experience? Had you played the original game before, or?
So I actually did play Monkey Ball 2 first. I essentially got it when I was young as like a birthday gift. I think randomly from a friend. I actually think he may have gifted me his copy, so shout out to him. But like essentially, I played it at a friend's house. I was like, this game is incredible. Like I think we just played some Monkey Target and then a little bit of the main mode, and I was sold pretty much instantly. And then ever since then, that was like one of the biggest like pillars of games that I played it as a like a youth, and then kind of never lost that love for, because there are games that I've like kind of loved and then got a little bit older, maybe fell out of like loving them and then came back to them, or maybe never came back to them. But Monkey Ball has been one that I've always been like, that's one of my favorite games, if not my favorite. Because there's so many things every time I replay it, I just feel like I notice that I love more about that game, both in its multiplayer and in its single player.
Yeah, it's the whole package. So for me, I did play the original Monkey Ball first, and I very much like the original game. I think that's having that as a launch title for the GameCube. Sega is like just getting out of the console business, and announcing that, hey, we're gonna make a game on a Nintendo console, which seemed like mind-boggling at the time. And they knocked it out of the park with that first game. Like, it's just a really fun, really great thing to have on the GameCube.
Mhm.
Even the fact that like you're rolling monkeys around in a sphere feels like a little bit next gen if you compare to like the graphics of an N64, where it'd be kind of hard to show a monkey in a completely round sphere.
Right.
Um, but then Monkey Ball 2, I didn't even know there was a sequel for the longest time. I think there was like we had a couple years of having the GameCube and only having the first game, and then randomly picking up the second game and just, in my opinion, it just kind of improved in every way because the mini games were way more fleshed out. And I think you can have some debate on which levels were better between Monkey Ball 1 or 2, but I feel like Monkey Ball 1 was a lot more of like the balancing act and really focusing on, yeah, balancing your ball through like kind of static obstacle courses,
Mhm.
whereas the second game, they really kind of upped the ante and like they added like switches to the levels and like moving obstacles and almost you said earlier that Monkey Ball's like not really platforming, and I guess it's not really, but they add like a bit more of that, just where there's more like obstacles or gimmicks to different stages. um and yeah, it was just such a cool escalation. And in particular, I'm always going to associate that game, um this is me getting super nostalgic, but back in the day, me and a buddy, for like our school science fair, we decided our project, and we 100% did this just so we could play a whole bunch of video games. But we were like, our school project is virtual versus reality. What happens to us if we play video games for 24 hours versus going outside for 24 hours? And I have very intense memories of most of that 24 hours of video games was just Monkey Ball 2, playing the mini games over and over.
That is so fire.
Um,
I love that.
it, it was 100% just an excuse for like 10-year-old us to play video games and like have all the excuses to like, mom, we can't stop playing video games. This is for science. This is for schoolwork.
Yeah,
We
it
got to do this.
yeah, you have to you got your first kind of like all-nighter playing video games in the name of research. I
Yeah. And
I
it
absolutely
was
love that.
completely guilt free. It was for school, and best thing was we got first place in that science fair, so it was
Oh,
totally worth it.
hell yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, Monkey Ball, like, well, are you familiar with the study actually that was done that surgeons who had played Super Monkey Ball 2 found that like there was like a correlation with how steady their hands were and such that like playing Monkey Ball 2 was helpful in that regard?
That is one of my favorite like little video game factoids. I
It's
looked
so cool.
before we started recording this just earlier today, I looked up just the Wikipedia page for Monkey Ball 2 because I
Mhm.
was like, is there any of the mini games that I've like forgot about, just to freshen my brain?
Right.
And that was one of the things that they mentioned was the legacy and impact section is like, oh yeah, randomly Monkey Ball 2, it makes surgeons better at their job. And it's like, that's amazing.
It's so fascinating, but I mean, like, I can see how because Monkey Ball, something that I really appreciate about it is like how much it rewards like, very precise and steady and consistent movement. And like you were talking a lot about the difference between Monkey Ball 1 and Monkey Ball two's level design. And I think that that's super, super interesting because it's a part of the reason why I think I prefer 2 over 1 is that one, I would argue, I totally agree. I think a lot of it is about kind of like a lot of its levels are designed in kind of tight ropes. Like there, a lot of its difficulty is less in like assessing the level and saying like, okay, what's the solution here, and more so like uh the execution, right? Like it's
Mhm.
can you remain steady across all like this long tightrope or these different like obstacles that may be moving slowly or quickly. Monkey Ball 2 has that, but a lot of its levels also are about also have a little bit more of a puzzle element. So it's like, how does this gimmick work, right? Like
Hmm.
a level that a lot of people I think tend to really kind of gravitate towards when it comes to like Monkey Ball 2 in terms of like its gimmicks is like are you familiar with the level launchers?
I think I know what one you're thinking of, or at least like the main mechanic behind it.
Yeah, there's
Where
like
you like launch yourself up and then have to like fall down,
right.
or
It's like essentially there's like these kind of like sliding platforms at the bottom of the stage, and you have to try to like use like use the platform to like hit yourself up to like kind of land on this large like pillar
yeah, yeah.
structure. Yeah, like a lot of people will talk about that level and like say that they don't like it because it maybe the answer to it is a little obscure. And there are definitely levels in Monkey Ball 2 where the answer is a little bit obscure, but that one I think is really, really interesting because it plays with your ability to kind of assess like how these like launchers are moving and figure out, okay, like, oh, I've got to use these to like hit myself up this big structure and control the stage while I'm in the middle of the air to land on top of this pillar and like get into the
Hmm.
goal. It's just a really, really interesting like usage of like more of a puzzle element that you don't necessarily get as much in Monkey Ball 1, that I think just makes Monkey Ball 2 edge out a little bit more. I think Monkey
Hmm.
Ball 1 is a little bit more consistent. Like there's less stinkers like levels in Monkey Ball 1 than there is in 2,
Hmm.
but I think the hard hitters in Monkey Ball 2 just like hit significantly harder. It's how do we create levels that nobody would really think was possible in like a marble rolling type of game, you know?
Hmm. And I think like a decent amount of it is also like building off that first game where it's like,
Mhm.
okay, we've had these more, it's completely in your control of the analog stick and how well you know like how the stage is going to react to that. And then once you need to build another 150 or however many levels are in the second game, it's like, okay, we need to start adding in something new and something that is going to test the people that kind of mastered the physics of the first game.
Mhm.
And gimmicks are a really good way to do that. I agree that there's something about that like that puzzle aspect and having to like kind of think about, okay, well if this gimmick is doing this, like what do I have to do to get to the exit, as opposed to just your control. There's something about that like active thinking that yeah just scratches an itch a little bit better for me in my opinion, and that's why I would also say I think I prefer like Monkey Ball 2 as a game over the original just a bit more.
Yeah, there's so much about Monkey Ball 1 that I just absolutely adore because I think that it's very like it's very good at you can tell that it was an arcade game at first because
Hmm,
of
yeah.
just how approachable and like inviting its controls are, and then how much it ramps up in difficulty and like how much it really kind of like draws you in and encourages you almost to like try again and like put more quarters in, you know? Um
Hmm.
but like Monkey Ball 2 is like the direct to video sequel, basically. But to me, it feels very much like it was built for people who are playing it on a console that are like looking for that kind of like more uniquely home console feel, I guess, for like each of its levels, that its levels feel more like something that you would sit down and really learn and are less like inviting on a initial glance. They're more puzzle focused, but it's more so like you return again and again to really master them and really enjoy like the different elements that are there, I think.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I hadn't really thought of that before because yeah, the original Monkey Ball, it was initially developed as an arcade game. So I think most or all the levels in even the GameCube version of Monkey Ball 1 like were intended to be in an arcade game and I guess have that immediate like accessibility thing, or at least I can dive right in and like get the gimmick. Whereas Monkey Ball 2 I think was developed specifically as, oh, Monkey Ball did well, so we're going to make a sequel on the GameCube. And it was developed as a full on console game. And I guess that kind of changed their perspective a little bit over like how much time people are going to dedicate to it and like learning the minutia of how things work.
Yeah, and I imagine, like, you know, I would obviously love to like hear this from a developer themselves, but like, I imagine that, like, you know, developing this game specifically for consoles with the intention of like, people aren't spending money to replay this over and over. Like they're going to have this game at home. Like I
Mhm.
imagine that it probably opened the doors to kind of get really, really inventive with the ideas of like the different levels that they presented. Like, the things like the wormholes in Monkey Ball 2, which like, if they were in like a game that you were playing in the arcade, I imagine you'd like go through and you'd be like, "Oh, where am I?" You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
in
and then you
a
lose a quarter, yeah.
yeah, yeah, you'd be like, but in Monkey Ball 2, you can kind of get play on those ideas that people are sitting down, they're trying to clear expert mode like by any means possible. You can get a little bit more creative, you can get a little bit more challenging in terms of challenging somebody's understanding of how this game really, really works. And so you get levels like conical slider, which apologies for like name dropping a bunch of levels, but like conical slider is one of my favorites because essentially what it is there is a wormhole at the top of this area here. There's a big strip going around this big cone, and on the top of that cone is the goal, but there the strip is like kind of hovering away from the cone a little bit. So what you have to do is you have to build up speed going down this like hovering strip, building speed, trying to not fall off. And then at the very bottom, there's a wormhole that transports you back up to the top where you have to try to jump over a bumper to get to the goal. It's as challenging as it sounds because you're balancing on a knife's edge of like building speed, not trying to waver too much in one direction, then also quickly reacting once you get out of the wormhole. And that's not
Mhm.
the sort of thing that you could really do in like an arcade setting, but in a direct to console sequel, it's something that really, really works well and really tests your understanding of the level mechanics and the physics of the game itself in a way that to me is just so rewarding when you pull it off.
Yeah, and it helps because Monkey Ball 1, like, playing through the levels, you'd have to do it in those challenge modes, and if you wanna get to the later levels, like, you need to play through everything, like, leading up to it. Like, you might be having a hard time with, like, Expert 34, and if
Mhm.
you wanna keep trying out that level and, getting better at it, if you were in the arcade, you'd have to keep going, like, looping through that again, or I guess just keep putting in quarters. Whereas Monkey Ball 2, they went in and added a story mode where you're encouraged to just keep replaying the level over and over. And it's just once you've beaten all 10 in any order, then you go to the next world.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
even like that overall structure kind of encourages and kind of shows that they realized, oh, okay, people are going to be like grinding on this one and like taking their time to get to places.
Right, exactly. And like I love the story mode in Monkey Ball 2 cuz like I think that the challenge modes are really fun because you can kind of see how far you can get on a certain number of lives and really it kind of encourages more of that reserved cautious play, kind of like how the original did. But in story mode, since there's no lives and you're not really limited by, like your ability to get far without like losing. Instead, it becomes okay, how do I solve this level? How do I execute? And since you're not really penalized for failing besides like having to restart the level and do it over again, it kind of encourages more of this like pro risk gameplay almost, where you're trying to do skips, you're trying to do risky
Hmm.
maneuvers, and lots of times that is the solution to the level. And I really like that about Monkey Ball 2 because I mean I think the speedrunning scene speaks for itself. The like some of the most fun parts of Monkey Ball are nailing those skips where you just kind of free fall and you happen to like land in the goal. It's so gratifying. It's hard to
Yeah.
really like put into words how much like how fun it is to clear a level that normally takes you 30 seconds and to clear it in 5 instead.
No, there's legit some levels in that game where it's like I wouldn't even know how to beat them regularly anymore because it's just so used to like, oh yeah, you just hop over this ledge right away and just balance on this little thing and oh, you pop right in the skip 3 levels extra portal.
Oh yeah, like there is a level in Monkey Ball 2 called Obstacle. Like it's one of those ones that I feel like stumps a lot of people because it's very it's very strange. And like essentially what you're supposed to do is supposed to wait for this slow platform, get on it, go all the way up, and then go down and kind of hug like this pillar and roll up into the goal. And you can do it that way. And that's the way that I did it for a long time. But then eventually you learn this skip where you just kind of like gun it and you jump off of like a corner of the stage there, and you can land in it pretty quickly. And it's like, oh man, ever since I learned that strat, like I have not looked back and tried to do that level the normal way because it's
Yeah.
so rewarding to do it the faster method.
So, I took a little look at your YouTube channel today, and I know, and I also actually my friend Wizawat was really recommending your Mario Party retrospectives.
Oh, I'm honored.
I know you really like your GameCube party games and everything. So I'm curious, how do you think Monkey Ball 2 kind of compares? Because the GameCube like has just a lot of classics of like that couch multiplayer era. You got Smash Bros. Melee, you got Mario Kart Double Dash, and yeah, you have all these Mario Party games and the Mario Sports spin-offs, and just a lot of really good multiplayer games on the GameCube. So how do you think Monkey Ball kind of compares in that scene?
Oh man, I mean, like you said, it's steep competition. Like you've got so many great multiplayer experiences on the GameCube, like the Mario parties, like Mario Kart Double Dash, Melee, Kirby Air Ride. Like there's tons of really
Oh
great
yes, yeah,
multiplayer experiences there. And City Trial, I think, eh, City Trial, I think is probably my favorite multiplayer experience on the GameCube. But I think Monkey Target is like a close second because the way that I
hmm
look at multiplayer experiences is kind of almost like a DJ set, right? Where essentially it's a fragile situation where one bad song can make the entire crowd leave, right? And so when
mm,
you're crafting a multiplayer like game and multiplayer experience, you want to try to find a way to make everybody remain engaged throughout the entire experience. And I think Monkey Target 2, since Monkey Target 2 is simultaneous as opposed to Monkey Target 1, which is alternating, like
yes,
there's
yeah.
this competitiveness to Monkey Target 2 that really like gets everybody trying to race to like grab the good power-ups before everybody else. And like it has you kind of like making really risky moves to try to nab those stars and that magnet and such before other people can. But then you have to try to land on like this like on this small platform and to try to get as many points and make that like competitiveness actually pay off. And so what you get is like this group of people kind of playing chicken with one another, trying to get to these things first, but also not overshoot to the point where you're like completely missing the point of like landing on the goal or on the target in the first place. I think Monkey Ball 2's party games especially are just really good at that kind of like that DJ set where they're engaging everybody and keeping all players entertained at the same time, like keeping everybody interested for like the duration of the mini game or the party game. Lots of times they do feel like everybody has a chance to stay in and win.
Oh, I really like that DJ metaphor. That's really good for describing it, because yeah,
Thank you.
they very much keep everyone engaged, and so many other multiplayer games just as kind of how they're designed. Like there's always at least one person isn't having the best time in like Mario Kart or something,
Yeah.
but yeah, they kind of go out of their way to make sure that there's always something going on, and there's always, yeah, everything just kind of transitions so quickly, and if you mess something up in Monkey Target, like you're immediately going to be back to another round with a different like target setup. And yeah, no, I really like that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And even like you said in my beloved Mario Party, like there are moments where, that DJ set kind of plays a crummy song and everybody's watching one person play a single player minigame that ultimately doesn't affect them in the long term. So everybody starts kind of
Mm,
checking their phones and checking out a little bit. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that Monkey Ball in particular is really, really good at kind of keeping people interested through that loop because you are either going through multiple rounds or it's one of those games where people can come back from a bad like maybe a bad round where you fell in the water during Monkey Target or something. and so people are still in the game and they're still interested in seeing how things shake out. I do really think that Monkey Ball is particularly good at maintaining a group of even casual folks' interests, because my cousins and such are not like very big gamers, but they love playing Monkey Ball. Like it's something that we do pretty much every family gathering, is like playing Monkey Ball, and like doing Monkey Target and Monkey Fight, and even the main game, even though it's alternating, like there's that still that retention of interest in that, like if you fall, you may be behind on a level, but you get to watch the other people try to beat other levels and then just mimic what they do, so you can catch up faster than you think you can.
Yeah, it's still impactful to what you're doing. Oh, I completely forget what I was gonna say. I had a
Sorry.
it was gonna be the most insightful thing ever, I'm sure. I think that's one of like kind of the secret weapons of really the entire like Monkey Ball franchise, is just how accessible the concept is. Like you could bring in anybody that's never touched a video game controller before and be like, look, this is Super Monkey Ball. There's a monkey and a ball, and when you press a direction on the controller, the ball rolls. And that like, it's such a simple thing, but everyone can kind of immediately get that. And even like, yeah, someone that's never touched video games before could like pick up a controller and like kind of realize what's happening if they're moving the control stick. And I think just that, like, that's even more accessible than kind of showing someone a Mario game. Whereas I think like Mario games are like, most people know what a Mario game is if you were just to show them. But Monkey Ball might even be like a level beyond that, where it's just, yeah, it's so easy to just kind of grasp that initial, oh, this is how this video game works. And then they're able to go so deep with it while also keeping that accessibility that I think just gives it such a, anyone could enjoy a Monkey Ball game. And the mini games all kind of branch out from that just very simple premise that's in the title, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of them also still use what I would describe as like Monkey Ball's like very, very simplistic controls. Cause Monkey Ball, like the main mode is just controlled with the control stick and you press A to toggle the mini map. A lot of the party games also still use that same design philosophy where the controls are incredibly simple and easy to grasp. Like Monkey Target, my beloved, I keep mentioning it,
Mhm.
but like, you essentially just use the control stick to control how your monkey flies, and you press A to open your ball and A again to close it. And that's
Mhm.
it. Like that's your controls, and it's incredibly easy to grasp. Like even in like very simple, or like very simple, very beloved multiplayer experiences like Mario Party and like Mario Kart, lots of times there are additional buttons, and there are reasons for those additional buttons. Like drifting is a big part of what makes Mario Kart like it's more fun and more skill based, and items kind of add that skill, or that like element as well. But like I think everybody's been in a situation where you've been playing Mario Party with like friends and you accidentally click through the mini game instructions too fast, and the whole room goes, wait, whoa, how do I play this mini game? Like
Yeah.
nobody knows
Yeah.
how it works. And so like Monkey Ball, the nice thing is that the controls are so simple and easy to grasp that pretty much anybody, even if they've never seen a controller before, can really easily pick up on it and join the fun pretty quickly.
That's definitely a huge strength of the series. And I guess speaking of the series in general, so there's Monkey Ball 1, Monkey Ball 2, both come out for the GameCube. Then they get Monkey Ball Deluxe, so that PlayStation 2 and Xbox can enjoy levels from those two original games. And I think they added some new levels in that one as well.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
50 more, something like that.
yeah.
They're interesting because they're like kind of that Monkey Ball 2 design style, but not quite. Like it's the levels in Deluxe are very interesting, but Deluxe to me is such an odd game because I grew up with Monkey Ball 2 and then I got Monkey Ball 1 like kind of later in my childhood. I didn't get Deluxe
Mhm.
until like this year. I have not played a ton of Deluxe, and
Okay, yeah.
to me, like playing Deluxe almost feels like playing two very differently designed games, like kind of duct taped together almost. Like
Hmm.
Deluxe isn't a bad game by any means. Like it does a really, really good job, especially the Xbox version. The PS2 version is a little like wonky on the performance, but the Xbox version I think really nails the feel of those original games. But like it to me, the dichotomy between the Monkey Ball 1 levels and the Monkey Ball 2 levels feel very, very obvious. But again, I think that's because of my experience with them.
And so I guess it's just recently there was also kind of similar because they remade 1 and 2 in Banana Mania, and I know that's kind of a bit of a controversial remake because I know the speedrunners like they changed, but just the physics were different with this, so a lot of this stuff doesn't work exactly the same. I'm not as deep on the Monkey Ball franchise to know like what exact changes were made, but do you have any thoughts on the Banana Mania remake?
Yeah, I mean, so I reviewed Banana Mania when it came out like forever ago, and like to me, Banana Mania is a fine way of playing those games if you want to experience the Monkey Ball games and you don't have access to like a GameCube or a means of playing GameCube games. Like Banana Mania is really affordable. Like it goes for really cheap prices and like it does a decent job of capturing those games and their original charm, but there's definitely elements missing. The physics are definitely different. There in Banana Mania, there's this like weightlessness to the ball that to me does not quite capture how Monkey Ball 2 quite feels. Because Monkey Ball 2, to me, like that, the physics of that game are. I feel like I know the physics of Monkey Ball 2 more better than I know the physics of the real world around me because I played
Yeah.
that game so much. Like, and
Yeah, I've got some games like that. Don't worry.
yeah, it's like, man, I may not be able to like understand the velocity of like this thing that I have thrown in the real world, but I understand how fast this monkey is going to roll if I hold the control stick forward for 1.5 seconds, you know. But like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's something about in Banana Mania the physics where the monkey just feels a lot more stiff, a lot more awkward, a lot more bouncy and more difficult to control. And there's something too about this is a particularly like console problem, which is what I experienced because I played the game on Switch and on PS4. That the like control stick dead zone is by default a circle, which makes diagonal acceleration a lot more difficult, at least in my experience. But
Mm.
a lot of speedrunners I've seen that have talked about it have said that on Steam, especially, you can change your control stick dead zone to a square, and that doing that makes the games feel a lot more like the originals. That dead zone might be part of the reason why, especially that like that diagonal acceleration feels so much more stiff and less like the original games.
Not to just go down the down the list of released Monkey Ball games, but I haven't checked it out myself yet. But they did do a new one like this past year, didn't they? Banana Rumble.
Yeah, yeah, I've been playing that a little bit, and it's fun. Like they're using a very similar physics engine to what they were using in Banana Mania. I don't know if it's the same, but it feels very similar.
Hmm.
But what I feel like they've really kind of come back to in Banana Rumble was some of that inventive level design. There's a lot of really
Mm.
clever level ideas in that game that I was noticing just kind of in my first playthrough, where they are really kind of hitting it out of like the park more than they have in the past several years of Monkey Ball games, of really understanding kind of how to make creative levels that kind of push your thought process on how did the physics and how does do I interact with this level gimmick to like to reach the goal essentially. Like there's one level in Banana Rumble in particular that I'm thinking of that I think is really interesting that they've never done before, which is like it's kind of like a bullet hell almost. So you're on a moving platform that kind of moves through a set of like bumpers. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's like really interesting because I was like, man, they've never really done something like that where you're not necessarily the part of the level that's moving as much. Instead, the threats are kind of coming at you. There's one kind of similar in Monkey Ball 1 where it's like essentially just a simple like downward slope and there's a bunch of bumpers and you got to try to move to avoid them, but you kind of control the speed at which you roll down that slope. But
Hmm.
in this level in Banana Rumble, like you can't do that. You really have to kind of move like side to side, and you can't get off the train until you reach the end. It's interesting. It definitely feels like they're kind of getting those creative juices flowing again with the level designs in Banana Rumble in a way that I can really appreciate.
No, that's really good because one I really want to play because I've heard mostly really positive things about it, and the fact that it's not a remake, it's not like a collection of previous games levels, like they're making new levels, but kind of in that classic style. Like there's doesn't seem to be any like huge like this is completely different from other Monkey Balls like gimmicks.
Mhm.
It more so seems like they're actually just trying to bring the franchise back after it was kind of either relegated to spin-offs or just yeah, not really active over the last, like, decade or so.
Yeah, and, like, we had such a drought, I would say, of, like, good Monkey Ball levels. Like, we had Touch and Roll on the, Nintendo DS, which essentially kind of brought back a ton of levels from Monkey Ball 1 and 2, like, again, and remade them. And then we had games like Banana Blitz and, Step and Roll, which it was you couldn't build really technical or really, like, heavy puzzle-based levels because you were controlling entirely through motion controls, and, like,
Mhm.
completing a level like Exam C on a Wii remote, like, tilting it just is awful,
Not gonna
awful.
happen
No,
unless you're,
never.
like unless you go to AGDQs all the time, then you might be the target audience that can do that, but
Right.
no.
Right, right, and, like, and if you can do that, and that's, like, incredibly impressive, but, like, Banana Blitz could not build levels around that. Step and Roll was, like, controlled with the Wii balance board, you definitely couldn't do something like that, but, like, inventive levels and something like that. But, like, then one Monkey Ball game that I feel like gets a little bit overlooked in terms of kind of bringing that form back a little bit was, Monkey Ball Banana Splits. It was on the PS Vita, which is why I think a lot of people overlook it. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, but that game, like its levels didn't quite hit the same marks that Monkey Ball 1 and Monkey Ball 2 did, but it did have some pretty good, pretty clever levels, and something that it did that no other Monkey Ball game has really done was that it built kind of like world set pieces into levels kind of as you progressed. So like there was a world with kind of like this big like monkey statue in the background that was like kind of slamming its fists, right? It's like this like clay monkey statue that's kind of slamming its fist, and you see it in the background for the majority of the world, but then you get to one of the later levels, and then eventually that monkey slamming its fists becomes a hazard in one of the stages where you have to like traverse over its fist as it puts them down into the level. Like there are
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, there's like ones where there's dinosaurs in the background, and then you have to like try to avoid the dinosaurs like in a later level where they're chomping at you and stuff. There's really clever ideas in that game. It doesn't quite hit the same marks though, and almost nobody played it. So it's hard to say that that game was like a pure return to form, but Banana Rumble seems to be kind of continuing in that trajectory of like, okay, I feel like they're starting to get what really makes this series tick. Even if we're not fully back to what I would say is the genius of Monkey Ball 2, especially like with Monkey Ball 2, I feel like a lot of the genius there was in its ideas and its balance of like, puzzle based levels and its momentum based levels, like something like Eight Bracelets, where you're like scooping through like these big hoops and such. It's super, super engaging to do. Like, we don't quite have those in the modern games, but we're getting there. We're getting to these ideas that are like starting to really understand this series.
Yeah, Banana Mania and Banana Rumble coming out kind of back to back. I think they're getting on the right track again. I'm interested to see what they're kind of going to do with the franchise next. And
Yeah.
that's actually a good question. What would you like to see from the next Monkey Ball game if Sega puts you in charge of the next one? What would you want to either bring back or improve upon or do new?
Oh God. Like if they put me in charge of the new one, honestly, I think my biggest thing would just be figuring out how we can kind of let our designers go hog wild with random ideas and like mechanics that they want to integrate into these levels, because I think that something Super Monkey Ball 2 is particularly good at is just kind of letting its most bizarre kind of out of the box ideas for a marble rolling game like really flourish and shine. And sometimes that results in levels that maybe aren't the greatest, like Switch Inferno for example, where it's just a plethora of switches and you have to find the right one. Like doesn't quite hit the same marks, but like I think
Mhm.
that there are lots of great ideas like conical slider, like construction. Like there are so many ideas in this series of levels that I just feel like the designers were like, how do I create the most out of the box level that the player would probably never expect to see? And I would love to see them just kind of flesh that out even more so. But my number one thing, if they put me in the monkey ball director seat and they asked me what my opinion was, my opinion would be, please let's fix Monkey Target. It has not been good since Monkey Ball 2. We've got to fix that.
Put half the budget towards Monkey Target.
Yes. This is essentially a Monkey Target sequel. And then we've also got some levels on the side, you know, if you want to try them out or whatever.
Honestly, I would fully support them, even if they just wanted to do it as a standalone game. We kind of started the episode talking about this, but yeah, Monkey Target could 100% like support itself. It's kind of nuts.
I think so too. Like, I think that you could absolutely flesh Monkey Target out with like some more modes, maybe some more, like, you know, more targets that you could implement would be good too, because Monkey Ball 1 and 2 only have, I think it's like three targets that you can play and they just kind of cycle. So if you could
Mhm.
get like multiple that could switch up each time, I think it would add a lot of staying power to a game that to me already has a ton of staying power just in how much of the dynamic is reliant on the players interacting and trying to like one up each other. Yeah, I think Monkey Target has legs in such a huge way. I would love to see them bring that back in a big way. But I think first that would need to come in terms of, you know, uh fixing the way that the flight feels for sure, because they did not get
Mhm.
that right in Banana Mania.
So yeah, I guess just kind of going in for one last question. If you had to kind of pitch this game to anyone that's like they've heard about it but they've never gone to play it, like what would you tell people that if they're thinking of giving Monkey Ball 2 a try because of this episode?
Oh man. So if you are interested in playing Monkey Ball 2, or if I was to pitch it to you, what I would say is it is the epitome of easy to learn, tough to master. There is so much about this game that is very approachable. You know, you sit down and play beginner and you feel like you know everything. You feel like the rest of this game is going to be so easy. Like, you know, I'm ready for whatever advanced and expert and master have for me. Like, you know, I've got it. And then you reach these later levels and you are like, holy cow, I have not even scratched the surface of everything that this game has to offer. But all of it is wrapped into this very accessible, this very easy to understand package that has also like really really cute aesthetics too that are just very memorable. There's a lot about Monkey Ball that I think is easily approached, but like I think that you could really really find yourself wanting to speed run it. It's one of those games where once you start to get good, you think, "Oh, I could be a speedrunner." And then you realize how big the skill ceiling is even is for that, and you want to spend like another 100 hours learning how to get a PB in a simple beginner stage.
What I super recommend for people is check out any speed runs or like games done quick runs of any of the Monkey Ball games.
Oh,
Those are
dude.
incredible to watch.
They're
Always a good time.
they're like feats of like the indomitable human spirit to me. Like the way that
Yes.
they are able to like input so precisely, and like pause buffering is like fascinating to watch. I think like watching them line their shot up perfectly to like hit the goal in ways that you wouldn't not think that were possible outside of like a tool assisted speed run. It's incredibly fascinating. Please, yeah, if you're at all, if you're somebody who likes watching speed games, Monkey Ball, I think, is required reading.
So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this conversation today.
Me
Legit,
too.
just kind of having the moment of like, hell yeah, I just got to splurge about how great Monkey Ball 2 is for almost an hour. So yeah, thank you very much for coming in with this game today, Mark.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to check out some of your stuff, where could they find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can find me at Mark's Rec Room mostly everywhere, like YouTube. I make like little shorts and such about like things that are rotting my brain at the moment on TikTok and whatnot too. But yeah, if you like maybe excessive analysis into multiplayer experiences in particular, or even just Nintendo or other games, feel free to check me out, and hopefully, you enjoy what you see and maybe you want to participate in the conversation. I really like, contributing to conversations about what makes those DJ sets of multiplayer experiences fun. But yeah, this has been a super, super fun conversation, Josh. Thanks for the invite. I love talking about Monkey Ball and it's been a great time.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been a great time. And yeah, thank you for being on. So to everyone watching, I've been Josh Busker. You probably know who I am just from the channel name. But if you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, and subscribe because we got new episodes every week. And I've been really enjoying talking with people about their favorite games. So until next time, thank you all for watching. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye, everyone.